You know, that moment when you're sitting at a traffic light, hands on the steering wheel, and you suddenly realize you're about to make another payment on something that's worth less today than it was yesterday? Not just a little less, significantly less. And you've got years of payments ahead of you. Maybe you've tried to calculate how much you're actually spending on this thing every month when you add up everything, not just the loan payment, and the number got so uncomfortable you stopped counting. Or perhaps you've justified it by telling yourself that everyone has car payments, that this is just how modern life works, that you need reliable transportation, so you might as well get something nice. Here's what most people won't acknowledge about the way Americans approach vehicle ownership. That machine providing your transportation isn't just a monthly expense. It's a comprehensive wealth extraction system so deeply embedded in our culture that questioning it makes you seem impractical or disconnected from reality. Understanding what vehicle ownership actually costs you, not just in dollars but in lost financial freedom, changes everything about how you think about building wealth over a lifetime. My name is Anderson, and I help people understand why certain normalized financial behaviors keep them working harder while building wealth slower. If you're earning decent money but feeling like you're never getting ahead financially, stay with me through this. Subscribe if this kind of honest financial analysis helps you see your situation more clearly. Now, when people talk about their major expenses, what usually comes up? Housing costs, right? Maybe education expenses if they have children, perhaps healthcare or insurance, food and groceries. Very few people would identify their vehicle as one of the primary obstacles to building wealth because we've been trained to think about transportation in terms of affordable monthly payments rather than total cost and what economists call opportunity cost. And that gap between how we think about vehicles and how we should think about them represents the difference between financial progress and financial stagnation. Here's the reality that might make you uncomfortable. Americans collectively owe over $1.6 trillion in auto loans. $1.6 trillion. That exceeds the entire economic output of most nations on Earth. We're discussing approximately 108 million auto loans distributed across the country, which means roughly 1 in 3 Americans is currently making car payments. But here's where this becomes genuinely alarming. The average payment for a new vehicle has reached $745 monthly. $745. That exceeds what many people pay for housing in affordable regions. Even used vehicles are averaging $521 in monthly payments. And these aren't short-term commitments. The average auto loan now extends to nearly 69 months for new vehicles. That's approaching 6 years of payments for something that begins losing value the moment the transaction completes. Think about what that means from a wealth-building perspective. You're committing to 6 years of payments for an asset that's mathematically guaranteed to be worth substantially less every single month you own it. It's like entering a contract where you agree to pay someone to systematically make you poorer over time. Most people wouldn't accept those terms in any other financial decision, but with vehicles, we've completely normalized it. Generation Z currently spends approximately 20% of their after-tax income on vehicle expenses alone. 20%. That approaches what financial guidance recommends for housing costs. Imagine explaining to someone that they should allocate nearly as much to their vehicle as to shelter. When stated plainly, it sounds absurd, yet that's the financial reality millions of young people are navigating right now. Since 2019, just 5 years ago, the average car payment has nearly doubled. Back then, people were paying around $467 monthly. Today, we're looking at payments approaching twice that. Auto loan debt has surged approximately 64% over the past decade. Now, you might be thinking that vehicles are expensive, but you genuinely need one to function, to get to work, to manage your life. And you're absolutely correct. Most people do require transportation. But we've been systematically conditioned to believe that needing transportation automatically means needing a $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 depreciating asset with premium features and advanced technology. The actual problem isn't that vehicles exist or that people need them. The actual problem is that we've normalized financial destruction and renamed it responsible adult behavior. Let me explain exactly why vehicles function as wealth killers in ways most people never fully calculate. First, let's discuss the complete cost of vehicle ownership, because that monthly payment represents merely the visible portion of total cost. According to automotive industry research, the comprehensive cost to own and operate a new vehicle exceeds $12,000 annually. That's over $1,000 every single month when you account for everything. We're discussing fuel, which alone costs the average driver approximately $2,200 yearly. Insurance premiums ranging from $2,100 to $2,700 annually, depending on your situation and location. Maintenance and repairs averaging $126 monthly for newer vehicles. And that assumes nothing major fails, which inevitably something does. Oil changes, tire replacements, brake services, battery failures, cooling system repairs, transmission issues, the list extends indefinitely. Every time you feel like you've stabilized your financial situation, your vehicle decides it requires a $700 to $100 or $800 repair you absolutely weren't anticipating. But here's what should genuinely concern you about this. Every single dollar you spend on your vehicle is money that vanishes permanently. It's not building equity in an appreciating asset. It's not generating investment returns. It's not creating any wealth whatsoever. And regarding money disappearing, a new vehicle loses up to 20% of its value the moment you complete the purchase and leave the lot. Before you've even driven it home, you've already lost thousands of dollars in value. After 1 year, your vehicle will be worth approximately 20% less than what you paid. After 5 years, most vehicles lose up to 60% of their original value. You could purchase a $50,000 vehicle today, and in 5 years it'll be worth perhaps $20,000 if you're fortunate. The average new vehicle loses approximately $5,000 in value every single year for the first 5 years of ownership. Some luxury vehicles depreciate even more dramatically. Certain high-end models experience depreciation rates exceeding 65% over 5 years, losing $90,000 or more in value. That's more than most people earn in an entire year, just evaporated because someone decided they needed a particular brand for routine transportation. The opportunity cost of vehicle ownership is genuinely staggering, and this is where most people completely miss the actual financial impact. Every dollar you allocate to your vehicle is a dollar you can invest in assets that appreciate over time. Assets like diversified index funds or real estate that grow in value. Let me provide a concrete example that makes this tangible. Say you're comparing purchasing a practical vehicle like a Honda Accord versus a luxury vehicle like a BMW 7 Series. The Accord might cost approximately $32,000 over 5 years of total ownership, including all expenses. The BMW might cost $130,000 over that same period. Most people focus on that $98,000 difference and think that's the cost of the decision, but that's not the actual cost. If you invest that $98,000 difference at a conservative 7% return over 30 years, you'd accumulate over $746,000. $750,000. That's the genuine cost of choosing the more expensive vehicle. If you make these kinds of decisions repeatedly throughout your working life, purchasing vehicles every 5 to 7 years, the lifetime opportunity cost exceeds $2 million in foregone wealth building. $2 million. Think about that. Imagine if someone presented you with a proposal where you give them $2 million over your lifetime, and in return, they provide transportation that constantly requires maintenance, breaks down occasionally, and becomes worthless over time. You'd think they were proposing something absurd, yet that's what most Americans accept as completely normal. Vehicles have evolved into status symbols in ways that transcend their transportation function. We judge people based on whether they drive an aging economy vehicle or a new luxury model. Automotive manufacturers spend billions associating vehicles with identity and lifestyle, selling fantasies of luxury, adventure, capability, sophistication. They've successfully convinced us that life is too short to drive something basic or merely functional. People will research extensively to save $200 on a phone purchase, but will walk into a dealership and sign a $60,000 contract without fully comprehending the long-term impact on their financial dealership trajectory. Leasing represents perhaps the most effective wealth extraction mechanism ever created by the automotive industry. You're literally renting a depreciating asset, paying someone else to absorb depreciation losses while building zero equity for yourself. You're paying for the privilege of using something that's losing value. The automotive industry also uses trade-in programs and upgrade incentives to keep consumers trapped in perpetual payment cycles. You trade in your vehicle with remaining loan balance, roll that negative equity into a new loan, and reset your payment timeline for another 6 or 7 years, all to acquire slightly updated features or styling. The average American will own approximately 13 vehicles over their lifetime, not because vehicles don't last longer than that, but because we're culturally conditioned to want the newest version, the latest technology, the updated design. Meanwhile, people driving 12 or 15-year-old reliable vehicles are quietly accumulating substantial wealth that others are spending on depreciation and interest. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Rebecca, because her experience illustrates these concepts clearly. Rebecca graduated college at 24 and immediately purchased a new vehicle for $42,000, financing it over 72 months at 4.9% interest. Her monthly payment was $583, which felt manageable against her starting salary of $58,000. Over those 6 years, Rebecca paid approximately $47,000 total, including interest. By the time she completed the loan, the vehicle was worth perhaps $16,000. Rebecca had effectively paid $47,000 for something now worth $16,000, a $31,000 loss over 6 years. But here's where it gets worse. From a wealth-building perspective, after paying off that vehicle, Rebecca felt she deserved an upgrade. She'd been responsible, made every payment on time, and now wanted something nicer. She traded in her paid-off vehicle and purchased a new one for $53,000, again financing over 6 years, another payment of $695 monthly. 4 years into that loan, Rebecca received a job offer in another state requiring relocation. She tried selling her vehicle but discovered she owed substantially more than its current value. She was trapped by her vehicle financing, unable to relocate without either continuing payments on a vehicle she couldn't take with her or paying several $1,000s to settle the negative equity. Rebecca's colleague Daniel took a completely different approach. Daniel purchased a 4-year-old certified vehicle for $21,000, paying cash he'd accumulated through disciplined saving. That vehicle served him reliably for 11 years with routine maintenance costing approximately $1,300 annually. Over those 11 years, Daniel invested the equivalent of what Rebecca's car payments would have been. By the time they were both 37, Daniel had accumulated $162,000 in investment accounts, while Rebecca had gone through 2 vehicle financing cycles and still had payments remaining. The difference wasn't income or intelligence or even particularly extreme frugality. The difference was understanding that vehicles are tools for transportation, not investments or status symbols or extensions of personal identity. Dealerships often generate more profit from financing arrangements than from the actual vehicle sales. They focus you exclusively on monthly payment amounts rather than total cost to make expensive vehicles seem affordable. They'll extend loan terms to reduce monthly payments, making a $45,000 vehicle seem reasonable because it's only $520 monthly over 7 years. They'll roll negative equity from your trade-in into new loans, putting you underwater from the moment you sign the paperwork. Banks, insurance companies, manufacturers, they all profit substantially from this system while you lose. If you experience job loss, you're still obligated to that payment on a vehicle that's worth less than you owe. Having a vehicle payment has become so thoroughly normalized that driving a paid off vehicle seems unusual to some people, almost irresponsible, like you're not participating properly in the economy. But here's the reality: while you do need reliable transportation, you don't need a reliable payment obligation. A 5-year-old Toyota Camry provides equally dependable transportation as a new one, but costs $16,000 in cash instead of $37,000 with 6 years of interest and depreciation costs. The safety and fuel efficiency arguments for new vehicles are often marginal benefits used to justify massive costs. People making $700 vehicle payments often claim they can't afford to invest for retirement or save for emergencies. Yet, that same $700 invested at 8% returns over 30 years would accumulate to approximately $1.1 million. $1.1 million. That's what that vehicle payment actually costs you over a working lifetime when you account for opportunity cost. The automotive industry has successfully normalized financial self-destruction wrapped in premium materials and advanced technology. Meanwhile, genuinely wealthy individuals often drive modest vehicles for extended periods. They understand something most people miss entirely. When you don't have a vehicle payment, you have options. You can take calculated risks in your career because you're not obligated to maintain that monthly payment. You can withstand temporary income disruptions because your fixed expenses are substantially lower. You sleep better at night knowing you own your transportation outright rather than owing tens of thousands to a lender. Your vehicle should serve you as a tool, not control you as a financial obligation. Every dollar spent on an unnecessarily expensive vehicle is a dollar that can't purchase the one thing money actually can buy: freedom. Freedom to make choices based on what you want rather than what you must do to maintain payment obligations. Think about the psychological weight of vehicle payments, that constant obligation sitting in the background of every financial decision you make. The pressure to maintain employment even when conditions become intolerable because you have that payment due every month regardless of your circumstances. Now, compare that to the psychological freedom of driving a paid-off vehicle. It might not be the newest model, it might not have the latest features, but it's yours completely. And that ownership creates mental space for thinking about opportunities rather than just obligations. The truly wealthy understand this instinctively. They view vehicles as tools for transportation, not as investments or status symbols or reflections of success. They purchase reliable transportation and operate it until it no longer functions economically. They understand that every dollar not spent on vehicle depreciation and financing is a dollar that can compound into future freedom. So there you have it, the silent wealth killer that most people never recognize because it's been so thoroughly normalized in our culture. Those vehicle payments, that financing, that constant cycle of trading and upgrading and owing, it's quietly destroying your ability to build wealth while making you feel like you're just participating in normal adult life. Your future self, the version of you that's financially free, that has genuine options, that can make decisions based on what you want rather than what you must do, that future self is counting on you to see through this normalization. To recognize that needing transportation doesn't mean needing the newest, most expensive option financed over years. It means finding reliable transportation you can afford, preferably own outright, and redirecting all that money you're not spending on payments and depreciation toward building actual wealth, toward investments that appreciate rather than depreciate, toward freedom rather than obligations. Your future millionaire self will thank you for driving that boring, reliable, paid-off vehicle while everyone else is making payments on their financial anchors.